I owe this community a lot, and the reality is, very humbly, I see myself as a brother and a son of yours. There are people in this room, back in the day of East End Madrasa, we used to pray Salat in the cafeteria of the high school. And during Zohar Salats, age of 8, 9, maybe 10 years old, I would sit there lined up with my friends and family praying Zohar Salat, and there'd be grown men on each side of the Jamaat. And they would sacrifice their fadilat, their salat on awwal waqt to ensure that my salat was accurate. So when I would stand, and if my feet weren't quite apart enough, they would come and they would place their foot in between my feet. There are men in this room right now, looking at me right now, that when I would go into a ruku at the age of 9, they would go and they would push my back a little bit lower to ensure I perfect my ruku. There are people in this room that when I go into sajda, can you imagine this grown man would go into sajda with me to check if all 7 parts of my body were on the ground properly. That I wasn't doing sujood like this, and he would flatten my palm to make sure my palm hits the ground. People who taught me alif bata, people taught me how to do wudu properly, would sit there in the bathroom and watch me to make sure I start up here and not down here. And so it's humbling for me to be here in front of a community that's given me so much. There are moments that we face that shake us at our core, remind us of the reality of our life, and put things in perspective for us. And one of them is death. It's those things that are guaranteed. We all know that everyone has to face it, but yet when it comes, sometimes we are at a loss of what to do and what to say. We're in shock sometimes that the ones that we love the most are leaving us. And the reality is that while we are giving pursa to the family and sending off the Marhoom to his journey, it's meant to always remind us that we will also go through this exact same journey ourselves. That our loved ones like this will gather like this, and they will recite Salatul Mayyat, and they'll remember us and they'll cry, and then they will bury us, and we'll move on, and they will move on. It's meant to jolt us, to remind us that this world is a temporary world, not to be attached to it, to realize that there is eternity now waiting for us. And sometimes it's important that we take lessons from the ones who we have left behind or who have moved on to another world. And that's why when you look at the way that the Quran describes death, it describes death as the mulaqat. إِنَّ الْمَوْتَ الَّذِي تَفِرُّونَ مِنْهُ فَإِنَّهُ مُلَاقِيكُمْ. That this death that you run from, do farar from, you'll eventually meet this death. It'll take you back. It'll take you back to the alim and the shahid, فَيُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. And that death will show you what you did in this world.